Alright guys, BLM here, back with a new video. In this video, we'll be doing a cast assessment of Big Brother 21. And also give my thoughts on a lot of the other things that have come out pre-season. And obviously we're going to end this video with my winner pick of the season. So, let's just talk general stuff here first. So, one, I don't know what I think of this cast, to be honest. I like certain people of the cast. I think overall though, I don't feel like this cast has a big heavy hitter for me. There's not a person here that I instantly attached to. Like last season, I really liked Tyler. The season before that, I really liked Josh. In BB17, I really liked Johnny Mac. BB16, I really liked Zach. Like this season, I don't feel like there's anyone here that really catches my eye too much. And overall, I just feel like this cast seems very BBOTT to me. I don't know. I mean, which isn't a bad thing. I really like the cast of BBOTT, but it feels like it's filled with a lot of people that you wouldn't typically see on a normal season of Big Brother. Now, another thing that's also come out since the cast release is that supposedly there is a connection between Tommy and Christie, where Christie used to date Tommy's aunt. So because of that, people have been speculating that this will be a sort of BB6-esque twist, where each of these people are going to have connections. I don't know. It could be possible. I mean, I think it's something that I would be interested in. I don't know if I'll be super positive on, because the thing is, in BB6, they figured it out within a couple days, right? Within the end of the first week, they already knew that there were pairs throughout the house. Another thing about this cast, though, that I am not an enormous fan of is the fact that it seems like a good amount of these people are recruits, which, I mean, isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as those recruits are into the game. And I don't know if they are. I mean, we just came from BB20, which had a good amount of fans on that cast. And even the ones that weren't fans, people like JC and Fessy, brought a lot of entertainment to the show. However, I feel like this cast is essentially what BB19 probably would have been if Paul never showed up. And hopefully there's no returnees here. That's another thing I should mention. I hope that there's no returnees. I don't have a problem with mixed seasons as in half and half. I don't mind a half and half sort of thing. I don't like 4 returnees, or I especially don't like 1 returnee, because that's always ended up with the one returnee pretty much dominating a lot of the game. I don't like the idea of that. Hopefully there's Tyler doesn't show up on day 1. That'll be terrible. I do think this cast has potential here, and let's go through it one by one. Again, I'm basing this entirely off of the Jeff interview and the bios that I read. I haven't watched the Ica interviews yet. They haven't come out yet at the time that I'm recording this. More than likely, my opinions will change even before the season. And obviously, these predictions are also going to be wrong. I mean, obviously, I'm not a prophet by any means. So we're going to be going through this cast in alphabetical order, because that's the list I have in front of me. So we're going to start off with Annalise. And she seems fine. I mean, I think she reminds me a lot of Lauren from Survivor Edge of Extinction. The fact that she's a college soccer player, the fact that she's the same age. I mean, they're both 22 right now. I believe she also is from California, like Lauren. I feel like there's a lot of things that really connect her to Lauren from Edge of Extinction, but she seems competent. I mean, that's really the main word that I think of when I think of her, is that she seems competent. She seems like she could win challenges, but probably not the best in challenges. She seems like she's good socially, but probably not the best socially. And she seems like she can be strategic, but probably not the best strategically. I think she seems fine all around, kind of like what Lauren was in Edge of Extinction. And that's kind of just the thing I keep on going back to, is I just keep on thinking of Lauren and Edge of Extinction. So, I don't know. Annalise seems fine. I mean, I think there's really 2 paths for her. I think it's either she gets taken out. I think no matter what, I feel like she's going to be in the majority early on. I feel like it's very likely she starts out in that initial majority alliance. It's just a matter if she's able to stay in power from that point on. I think she can be either a Caitlyn from BB15 sort of figure, where she's in the majority at the beginning. Probably there's some sort of flip. She ends up in the minority and then probably gets taken out pre-jury. Or she can be probably an Angela sort of figure, where she ends up in the majority, stays in the majority, wins some comps in the mid game, and gets towards the end of the game, and who knows if she wins or not. For me personally, I do think that's probably a more likely outcome. I don't see her going home early. I see her at least getting to jury, but I don't really see her as the winner. Next up, we got Christie, who I don't have high hopes for. I think she seems very emotional. I mean, the fact that she was crying already in the interviews is ridiculous. She seems to be at least a fan of the show. I mean, that's something with Annalise as well. These first two people we've talked about so far are both fans. But I don't really have high hopes for her. Something that, like, with her, the person that came to my mind when watching her interview was Megan from BB19. And obviously Megan quit, so... yeah, but I mean, I do think Christie will probably stick it out, but I just don't know how well she'll do. I get Megan quit because she was going to lose anyway, and Christie could be in a similar situation where she's an early boot. But I do feel like also if she's able to build a strong enough alliance and end up in the majority early on, I could see her riding her way towards the end game and possibly getting to the end. But to be honest, I don't see her as a person who would get the jury votes to win at the end. So I don't really have super high hopes for her. Next up, we're moving to Cliff. And I like Cliff. I actually liked his interview. I was surprised I liked his interview because I didn't expect to. But I do feel like a lot of people have been comparing him to Glenn and Steve. I don't really get that vibe from him. I do think obviously he's going to have trouble being the oldest person in the house by, I believe, like 20-something years. But I do feel like he comes off as more jovial than someone like Steve, where I feel like Steve got taken out kind of because his sort of like schemy sort of persona, and it didn't really rub Tyler the right way. I feel like who's going to think of Cliff as a really schemy guy unless Cliff goes out and becomes very schemy? But I don't know. To me, I feel like there's another person who's a bit older than the rest of the cast that will be more of the schemy sort of guy than Cliff. So I don't really have Cliff as the first boot, in my opinion, but I do have him probably going out relatively early, which is a shame because I do think he's probably the biggest fan of the show on this cast. He mentioned the giant mosquito in his Jeff interview. I mean, like, he's a big fan, and I do think it would be really awesome to see him do really well. I just don't feel like it's in the cards. Now we're moving on to David, and I don't have much to say about David. Kind of like Annalise, I never really got too much of an impression off of him. I just feel like he probably will do okay just based off of who he is. I don't think he'll come into the game and be like super aggressive or anything. He just seems to be like a normal guy. He hasn't watched the show. I mean, he knows nothing about the show, and because of that, I don't feel like he'll be able to navigate the end game super well. And I don't feel like he'll make the end game either. I think he'll probably be a middle of the road sort of boot. But I don't think he is someone who is going to be an initial target. But outside of that, to be honest, again, as I said, I just don't have really much to say about him. He didn't really leave too much of an impression on me. Next up, we got Holly. And Holly is probably one of the more notable people on the cast, I guess. I mean, I have no idea who she is, but supposedly she dated some bachelorette guy. I don't know, whatever. I don't know. She's attractive. There's that. And kind of like Annalise, I do feel like Holly, to me, comes off as competent in most things as well. I mean, like, again, I don't really have much opinions on Holly either. I mean, she seems like a nice girl. I don't know how entertaining she'll be. I wasn't really, like, again, I didn't find her interview to be too entertaining. So, I don't know. I mean, she's kind of there. I don't have really high hopes for her, but I don't have low hopes either. So, that's pretty much it. Then we got Isabella, who I think most people are comparing her to June Song already. And I mean, I can see it. Again, her bio was very... I thought a lot of people really liked it. To me, it came off as very try-hard. I feel like she was making a lot of jokes just to come off as, like, kind of edgy or whatever. But I don't know. I thought she was fine. I think when she was talking with Jeff, I felt like she seemed competent as well. I think to me, she seems like she is going to play a similar game to a June Song, where she plays like kind of a floater game. Probably has connections with the people in charge. Probably doesn't really dictate any of the action, but doesn't really need to either. And I could see her floating her way towards the end game. And if she can build a solid group by that point, she could probably run the game. Do I think it'll happen? To be honest, probably not. But she's not someone I'm going to completely rule out. But she's not someone I think will particularly do super well either. And to be honest, I just thought of this. The person that she probably reminds me more of is probably like Cassandra from BB Can 4. And Cassandra was someone who made a target of herself pretty early on. And I feel like Isabella can do the same thing here. But if she's able to survive those first few votes, like Cassandra, I feel like she can make it to the end game with a solid group. And if they're able to win those comps, I feel like she could make it to the end and possibly win. Now we're moving on to Jack. And I liked Jack. I mean, Jack is another one of these people who has never watched the show. But he has been doing a lot of research recently, and I feel like out of all the people who hadn't watched the show before, I feel like he's the one I'm the most impressed by. I feel like the fact that he instantly knew Jeff was on The Amazing Race, I feel like that's something that streamed out to me that he had done his research at least. And I think he seems like a competent player. Obviously, everyone's going to say, oh, he looks like Jason Momoa and everything, which, I mean, he does. But the first impression that I got off him was kind of like a Malcolm from Survivor vibe. I really liked how he talked about the game. Mind you, there were a couple of ideas that he had that I didn't particularly like. I mean, this idea of, oh, I don't want to win any of the HOHs, but I want to win the vetoes. It's like, why? Why is that a thing? But I do think he's someone that is going to eventually be looked at as a pretty big target, and he's definitely not going to get to the end of the game without being targeted or needing a comp. But I could see him playing a pretty strong game outside of that. And he's definitely one of the winner contenders for me. Now we're moving on to Jackson. And he's there. He seems pretty boring. I mean, he has a weird voice. I was like really thrown off by that. He's like an alpha male, but like not really a super aggressive alpha male. Like I know some people were comparing him to Monty online, and I feel like that's probably an apt comparison. I could also see him being sort of like a Corey sort of figure. So I don't know. I think that sort of archetype naturally does pretty well as long as they don't win the first HOH and blow up things like Monty did. But I do feel like if he can be like Corey, I feel like he can make a pretty deep run, probably win some comps towards the end of the game, and possibly win the game if he wins enough of them. But he's not really someone that I'm going to really be banking on to win the game, so he's not really going to be in my winner contenders. Now we're moving on to Jessica, the, 30-ish-year-old. And I don't know. I mean, she seems fine. I don't have high hopes for her from a gameplay standpoint. I do feel like she'll probably be out pre-jury. I don't think she'll be... I mean, she could be the first boot, but I don't think she'll necessarily be the first few boots. But I do think before the jury, she'll definitely be taken out. To me, she seems very Suzette-y, like Suzette from Big Brother Canada 1. And Suzette annoyed the shit out of me. I mean, Suzette's probably my least favorite player of Big Brother ever. I mean, well, withstanding just people who are terrible human beings. Because Suzette's actually, like, seems like a good human being. It's just, she annoys the shit out of me. And I feel like Jessica is sort of similar. I mean, I didn't find Jessica as annoying, but I do feel like Jessica will be sort of the similar sort of figure within the house. And yeah, just overall, I just don't have super high hopes for her. Next up, we're moving on to Kathryn, who is probably the person of this entire cast that I think has the least amount of chance of winning the game. I really don't like her. I mean, she seems so, like, vapid. I don't know. It's like the entire time she was talking, it's just like, there was like nothing there. I mean, she's one of these people who's never watched the show, and you could tell when she was talking about the game with Jeff. It was like she had no clue what she was talking about. Like everything else that she would talk about was like how, oh, I'm gonna miss social media and stuff. It's like, okay. I mean, is that all you have? It's like, I don't know. I don't have super high hopes for her, but I'm not actually expecting her to be an early boot though. I mean, I think she'll be someone that no one looks at as a threat. I think she's someone who probably will win competitions. She seems very physically fit, but I just don't think she'll have any respect from the jury by the end of it. And to be honest, I don't know if she'll make it that far anyway. So yeah, not super high hopes for Kathryn's winning chances here. Then we're moving on to Kemi, I believe is how you pronounce her name. I really liked her. I was actually surprised I liked her. I think she's someone that could be a pretty fun character on this season. I feel like she's someone who, kind of like Isabella, I feel like could be a June Song-esque character of someone who badmouths you in the diary room, but is like really nice to you to your face. But I do feel like that's less so for Kemi here. I feel like Kemi seems like someone who is more direct than someone like June Song, which kind of worries me that she might be like a Shima sort of character. Obviously not as explosive as Shima was, but still like someone who's a bit more aggressive. I mean, she seems pretty intelligent. She seems like she at least has some knowledge of the game. So I do like Kemi here. Not necessarily going to make her my winner pick, but is someone I'm interested in seeing on TV and interested in seeing how she does. Now we're moving on to Nick, who from his picture looks like the most generically boring guy on the cast, but I thought he was kind of interesting. I thought he definitely talked about the game very intelligently. I thought he's one of the people that knows the game the best out of this entire cast. And I think he can do well in challenges, and I think he can do well socially. I think he's probably one of the most capable players here, at least it seems like he is. And it seems like the online community even really loves him. I really still don't actually know why, but I don't know. I think he's fine. I think he seems like a person that's going to be a decent player. I could very likely see him being the leader of his alliance, the person that's making the plans for his alliance. But it's just going to be a matter of whether he's able to keep control the entire way through. And now we're moving on to Nicole, who I liked as well. I liked Nicole. I think something that really irritated me was that her voice was pretty much like a slightly deeper version of Nicole Franzel's voice. And it really threw me off. It was so strange. But I liked her. I thought she seemed like another one of the people that probably knew the game the best. I don't know. I don't know how well she's going to do, though. That's the thing. I think she comes off to me as very BB16 Nicole Franzel. I don't think she doesn't seem like someone who's going to take control of anything. She doesn't seem like someone who will be leading any alliances, will be making any plans. But she seems like someone who is capable enough to not be looked at as a threat and someone to be taken towards the end game. And I feel like if she's able to win a lot of these mental cops that are usually in the end of the game, again, last year they changed things up, I feel like she could do pretty well. So she's not going to end up being my winner pick here, but I do feel like she's someone who does have some potential. And now moving on to Avi, who I liked a lot more than I thought I would. Looking at his picture, I thought I would like him, but I didn't think he would do well in the game. But after watching his Jeff interview, I was actually really impressed with him. I thought he talked about the game strategically. I think he came off as somewhat social. He's one of the bigger fans of the show. I think he's someone who I was actually really impressed with. And something that impressed me even more is that he has a really attractive girlfriend, and it's really mind-blowing to me. And I think for him to have a girlfriend that attractive, I feel like he's got to be doing something right. I think he just seems like he's a good guy, and I feel like that can get him a long way. I do wonder if people are going to look at him as schemy or not. I don't think so. I do think he has a sort of young sort of vibe to him. I don't feel like he is only 22, but I feel like you could easily mistaken him for a teenager. But Ovi, I feel like, is it Ovi or Avi? I think I'm switching between the two. Who cares? I'll figure it out eventually. But I think he has a good chance. I think he's definitely one of my winner candidates. Now we're moving on to Sam Smith. And when I said earlier that I don't think Cliff will be the first boot, that's because I think Sam will be the first boot. I loved his interview with Jeff. I thought I think he can come off as annoying, but I do think he seems like a really fun personality. But I think there's almost no chance he isn't on the outs at the beginning of the game. And I think he comes off as a bigger threat than someone like Cliff. So I do see him as being the first target. I would actually be pretty surprised if he's not out by the first 3 weeks. I think he seems like that sort of figure, because it's either one, he's on the outs and he gets taken out right away, or two, he ends up somehow being in the majority alliance, but not really a trusted member and ends up getting taken out after that. I don't have high hopes for him at all. I think he's definitely an early boot, but I do think he'll be fun to watch, maybe, hopefully, we'll see. And last person on the cast, we have Tommy, and I really like Tommy. I think Tommy is someone who is definitely a top candidate for winner potential here. I think he's someone who, he does have a Broadway background. Again, when I was watching his interview, the first person I thought of was Frankie Grande. I know a lot of people are like, Frankie Grande, but it's really, Frankie Grande is a great player. The thing is, as annoying as he is as a person, and as narcissistic and egotistical as he comes off, Frankie Grande played a fantastic game, and he played probably the second best game of that season, and more than likely has the same amount of equity as Derek at that end game if that wasn't the case. But Tommy here, I think, is essentially Frankie without the narcissism. I think he comes off as a sort of a chill sort of guy. I actually really liked Tommy here. I think he could play a similar sort of game. The thing is, though, I don't know if he's going to try to play that sort of game. He keeps on talking about Ian. He keeps on mentioning how he wants to play like Ian, and I feel like Ian is not who you would want to play like. I feel like maybe Ian in the middle of the game, sure. Ian in the middle of the game is kind of similar to the way that Frankie played and the way that someone like Andy Herron played. And I feel like Andy Herron is his upside. I feel like if he's able to play that sort of game, someone who's in the background but still making the bigger players do what he wants them to do, and then at the end of the game turn against those bigger players, get them out, and then run the table from that point on, I think that's the best chance he has at winning this game. I think the problem for him is I feel like he does come off as a threat. I feel like Tommy's someone that's not going to be able to completely avoid being a threat, especially towards the end of the game. I feel like if you're in the final 5, final 6 with him, there's no way you're not looking at him as someone who's going to win this game. So I think that's an issue, but I do feel like he has potential to win out. I do think he is someone that I could see winning physical challenges, mental challenges. I feel like he has a very good chance at winning the game. So I do feel very high on Tommy here. So there we go. That is all 16 cast members. As I said, I think a very mixed bag in terms of the cast. I do think there's a lot of fun personalities, but I think in terms of players, I think we're pretty limited. Again, so for me, in terms of winner candidates, it comes down to, I would say, Jack, Nick, Ovi, and Tommy. And it can go either way. I mean, to be honest, there's some other people like Annalise and like probably like Nicole and even Holly who I think have a chance at winning, but I don't really have them high enough to be my winner pick. I think traditionally, if I was going by how I usually pick my winner picks, it would probably be Avi or Ovi, however you pronounce his name. I am really considering Jack or Tommy as well. So let's talk this through. I mean, Jack, again, I think he's someone who doesn't know the game, and that's actually a really big hindrance on Big Brother, I feel like. I feel like the big difference between Big Brother and Survivor, I feel like Survivor is a relatively basic game. Once you understand how idols work and how to maneuver around them, I do feel like Survivor is pretty basic. It's just getting the numbers and keeping those numbers. But with Big Brother, with all the power shifts that happen, each week is different based on who's the HOH. Nominations play a big factor. It's just there's so many different scenarios that could happen on Big Brother that aren't there for Survivor. So I do feel like with Big Brother, you would need to know the game a bit more to win. And I feel like that's shown as with recent winners of Big Brother, almost all of them are super fans. I mean, when we go back, we got Casey, big fan. We got Josh, a really big fan. We got Nicole, who's a big fan. We got Steve, who's a big fan. Derek, who's a big fan. We got Andy, who is a big fan. Ian, who is a big fan. Rachel, who at least played the previous season. And then you got Hayden, who knew nothing about the game. But it's like, it's been a while. I mean, it's literally been since BB12, since we had a winner who knew nothing about Big Brother. And even if we move on to celebrity, Marissa and Tamar were both big fans of that as well. And then, I mean, I guess OTT Morgan was like kind of an average fan. But still, it's like, I do feel like you need to be a fan of the game to win the game at this point. And I feel like because of that, Jack doesn't really make the cut for me, even though I kind of want to pick him. I don't feel like he is someone that I can pick. So I guess we are down to Avi and Tommy. And I don't know. It's tough for me. I think this is the thing. I think Tommy would have more of a chance of winning if he got to the end. It's just a matter of if he can win out or not. And I do think he has that potential. But at the same time, I do feel like Avi is one that can be more under the radar. So it is really close between these two. I think I'm going to go for Avi or Ovi. Ovi? Yeah. And the reason for it, again, I just feel like he's not as threatening as Tommy is. I feel like he has the most potential in my eyes to make it to the end and then eventually win. While like I feel like Tommy will become a target at multiple points in the game, and because that will probably need to win some comps, and who knows if he'll win those. So for me, Avi or Ovi, whatever, is my winner pick. To be honest though, I don't really have a big rooting interest in this season. And last season I really liked Tyler, and he was my rooting interest at the beginning. BB19, same thing with Josh. BB18, I really loved Frank from his original season. I mean, BB17, I really loved Johnny Mac. 16, I love Zach. 15, I liked McCrae. I mean, 14, I liked Frank. I mean, 12 and 13, I really loved Brendan. 11, I really loved Russell. This season, I don't really have that. There's no one here that I feel like I really love. No one I really have a big rooting interest in. But I do think this is a pretty fun cast overall, and I'm really excited to see how it plays out. So there we go. Those are my entire opinions on the cast of Big Brother 21. We'll probably do more Big Brother videos in the future. Obviously Survivor videos, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for watching.